What's going on? Shane Serrano here, coming to you from Radio Boardshop in Aspen, Colorado. And today I'm going to be talking about snowboard boots and everything you need to know when you're looking to buy your next pair. So snowboard boots are arguably one of the most important components of your whole kit. If your feet are hurting because you're in the wrong boots, it doesn't matter what snowboard you're on or what bindings you're in, you're going to have a bad time. And that's why it's so important to get the proper fitting boot that's right for your foot, and that's one of the things I'm going to explain today. So the first key thing when looking at snowboard boots is to go and try them on in person. Go down to your local snowboard shop and get your feet in as many boots as you can. Everybody's feet are different, so you got to find the boot that fits your foot the best. If you ask like a friend or a shop guy what the best boot is, they're going to tell you what the best boot is for their foot. And so that's why it's important for you to try on as many as you can to see what fits your foot the best, because everybody's feet are so different from each other. If you don't have the option of going to a local snowboard shop because there isn't one in your area or because it's too far or you can't drive or anything like that, of course you're going to have to buy them online. And the rest of the video I'll talk about other things you should look for in boots when you can't try them on in person. When you are looking for snowboard boots, whether it's online or in the store, the most important thing is to know your foot size. So if you can't go to your local snowboard shop, I would suggest going to the next closest store that you can measure your foot with a foot measure, aka a Brannick. And for snowboard boots, what I've found is if you use European sizing, that kind of goes in like the 30s to 40 range numbers. That's kind of the most accurate sizing across all brands. Because you can find, in one brand you might be a size 10, or another brand you might be a size 10 and a half, and they're all kind of different. So I've found that European sizing is the most accurate. So go down to your local shoe store and measure your foot, or if you can go to your local snowboard shop to try on boots, make sure that you're measuring your foot to get you in the right size boot. Now for those of you that can go to a snowboard shop and try on snowboard boots, the first important thing to think about when you are slipping your foot into a boot is tie it up all the way before you think about if it's the right size. I know a lot of people, they first slide their foot into a boot and immediately they say it's too small. And that's because their foot slides to the front of the boot and their toes are jammed against the front. But when you tie it up all the way, it pulls your foot back into the proper place in the boot, and then you can get a better understanding of if it's the correct size for you. If you are the kind of person that has access to a snowboard shop, but you decide to buy boots online, I would highly suggest going to a snowboard shop instead to try on boots. And that's especially true for people who buy the same boot year after year online, because once in a while a boot fit will change. And if you're used to something and it's changed and you haven't tried it on, you're going to be like pretty bummed out when you get that boot in the mail and it's not the right fit that you're used to. So go ahead, go into a snowboard shop and get your feet in a bunch of snowboard boots to see what fits your foot the best. Now once you have your snowboard boot all laced up and you're in the shop, the way that you want it to fit is when you're standing up tall, you feel your toes right at the front of the boot. Not like uncomfortable or jammed, but you kind of feel the front of the boot. And then when you get in your snowboard stance and kind of flex into the front of your boot, bending your knees and keeping your feet flat on the floor, you'll feel your toes kind of release off the front. That's what a proper snowboard boot should feel like. Additionally, for overall boot fit, you want to find the most comfortable boot you can for your foot. So that means no hot spots or pressure points or nowhere where it feels weird on your foot when you have a boot on it. Another super important thing is making sure that there is no heel lift in a boot. And the way you do that is you flex into the boot, just like I said, for feeling the right size. And you want to make sure your heel is locked down when you do that. Also, like walk around the snowboard shop and make sure that heel isn't lifting up and like sliding out of the boot. And this isn't something that you're trying to lift your heel out of the boot, because you can't replicate that motion when you're locked into a snowboard binding. So just when you're naturally walking or flexing in that boot, make sure your heel is nice and locked into that boot. Now depending on how many days you're going to ride in a winter, is going to be a little bit different how you want your boot to fit in some circumstances. So for me, for example, I ride almost every day, 100 plus days in the winter. I measure to a 44 European sizing, that's about 10 and a half, 11 for most boots, and I wear a size 9 snowboard boot. And the reason for that is because I need that boot to not get too packed out by the end of the season. So if I started in a size 10 and it felt comfy right when I started, by day 50, it'd be way too big and packed out, and the boot would be too big for me and it'd be done. Now, if you're riding, up to 15 days in a winter, you have a little more room for comfort. So you don't have to jam your toe crazy into that fit. When I get in that size 9 fit, my toes are really snug against the front. But because I've tried on boots for so long and ridden boots for, a long time snowboarding, I know that that's going to pack out and it's going to be like the perfect size for me. So if you're not going to ride that many days, maybe 7 days or, 15 days in a whole season, go for like what's most comfortable for your foot. That's the key, getting in the most comfortable fit that you can. And I wouldn't suggest anybody to downsize their boot like I do. That's kind of just what works for me. I know that's what I like and how I need that performance fit. So I'm not telling anybody else to, go from 11 to a 9, but you gotta compensate for that pack out. Boots are all made with foam, and the more you use them and beat them down, especially if you're snowboarding, almost every day, boots are gonna pack out. So they're gonna grow a little bit through the season. And you don't wanna start with a boot that's like comfortably sized or maybe a size too big, and then it packs out and then you're like screwed for the rest of the season. I've seen that happen a lot and people are always bummed. They're always like, why did I get a boot that's too big? So for the average person, I would suggest downsizing about a half a European size or a full European size. So if you measure to a 40, start trying on boots that are size 39, Euro size. And that's because all boots are gonna pack out. Boots are made of foam materials that don't last forever. So the more you use it and break it down, that foam's gonna kind of spread out and it's gonna end up a little bit bigger from the end of the season compared to like the first time you rode it. So you have to kind of plan for that pack out. Don't get a boot that fits like a sneaker because once it packs out, it's gonna be too big. And a lot of people get snowboard boot issues because their boots are too big rather than too small. Because when a boot is too big, your foot is able to slide around in there, and that's when you get blisters building up, and then you just have, excess boot material that you don't really need under your foot. So another super important thing to think about when buying snowboard boots, as with buying anything, is the price. I'm gonna kind of break that down for you. So when you're looking at boots that are below $350 and below $300, it's gonna be a lower end boot. And with that, you're not gonna get as good of a sole material. It's gonna be a little more slippery and not really like hold traction well. It's also gonna tend to break down quicker. Cheaper boots are usually softer, so the materials can break down a lot quicker, so they're not gonna last you as long. Another thing you'll get with a lower end boot is how it's tied up. So normally lower end boots, you might only get a single BOA system, which isn't that great because it's only one tightening system for the entire boot. When you have only one tightening system, it allows one zone to get loose as you flex. And what you really want is a boot that has dual tightening systems. So whether it's BOA that has a side BOA that tightens the lower zone and a top BOA that tightens the upper zone, or a speed lace boot that has a lower zone tightener and an upper zone tightener, you're just gonna get more performance out of a boot like that that won't loosen because you have two separate zones that each has their own tightening system. And that's one of the benefits of getting a boot that's above that $350 range. You get dual tightening systems, so one for the upper and one for the lower. You also have the opportunity to get a stiffer boot, and with a stiffer boot, that's gonna last longer because there's that stiffer material to break down, and their stiffer boots are also more responsive. Finally, you're gonna get better sole material in the higher end boots. So whether it's a rubberized sole from Vibram or even Michelin, or there's other brands doing their own dual or triple density foam and rubber boots. So there's different hardnesses throughout the boot that really helps you give traction. So whether you're hiking the pipe or you don't want to slip on ice in the parking lot or you're like hiking a sick line, that's where that's really going to come into play and help you out. As far as stiffness goes with boots, it's kind of a personal preference thing. Personally, I get the stiffest boot I can find. It's what I like. I need that stiff material to be able to break down and last like a long time, as compared to a softer boot that has softer material that breaks down quicker. Some people say that a softer boot's better for rails, or a stiffer boot is more aggressive for hard charging lines, but it's all kind of personal. I ride the stiffest boot I can get, and I still ride rails on it, and the park, and the pipe, and powder, and I do everything in that, and that's just what I like. So it's kind of about trying new things out. I know a lot of people, once they've gotten into stiffer boots, they felt like their world has changed and they never go back. But if you're new to buying snowboard boots, I would suggest something that is just comfortable. Normally stiff boots are not very comfortable right out of the box, and the softer boots are more comfortable right when you put your foot in. So just go with something that is as comfortable as it can be for your foot. One of the last things to check out when you're looking at new snowboard boots and maybe comparing a couple different boots is go and look at the liner of the boot. So take it out, investigate it, compare it to other ones. Right here I have the liner from the Vans Infuse, and as you can see I can tell a lot from this boot. So on the liner it has these nice heel hold spots, and it also has a little bit of a firmer backstay. When you take the liner out, also take the footbed out. This is also going to give you a lot of info on the boot. So Vans has a really nice one in their Infuse this year. It's got thick foam under your heel, thins out by the toe, and there's a little bit of a thicker rubber material around the heel to give you more support. And that's really important because if you're looking at two boots, you're not really sure what you should go with, that might be the deciding factor. Maybe you're like, ooh, this boot has a way better insole or footbed or liner than this boot, and that's why I'm going with that one. And sometimes online when you're looking at boots, you can see pictures of the footbeds and the liners, and that can give you a good sense too if you can't make it into a snowboard shop. So there you go, that is everything you need to know about buying snowboard boots. If you can go into a local snowboard shop, you're way better off than buying online because you have that option to try on all the boots that they have there. If you have multiple snowboard shops in your area, I would suggest maybe going to a couple so you can try different models on and different boots, because when looking at snowboard boots, it's all about what fits your foot the best. I can't sit here and say this is the best boot because my foot's going to be different from yours or hers or the next person's, and it's all about getting the most comfortable fit you can for your foot. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Shane Serrano, coming to you from Radio Boardshop. Keep tuning in. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Give that thumbs up like button. If there's any other reviews you want to see, go ahead and let me know in the comments, and I will try my best to talk about those new boards or new products. We got a lot of new stuff coming, and it's getting to that really exciting point of the season. So we'll see you in the next video. Peace.